It's 5 o'clock Pacific time on Friday, so you know what time it is. Time for another episode or live stream of Erik Wait Live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you have tuned in a little bit early, Mike Bennett, how you doing? Gerard Hughley, thank you for tuning in. And now I named this Jack White. Jack White had tuned in early, but he couldn't stay in because he's jumping on a plane. Don't know where he's going, but he's jumping on a plane. So, Jack, if you're watching this on the replay, howdy. Glenn Anderson, how you doing? So, what am I drinking tonight? One of the most common questions that get asked is, how people get concerned. You open a bottle, how long is it going to last? Will it go bad? Will it go flat? And there really is no universal answer to that because it's going to depend on the whiskey. Depends how you're storing it. Depends how often you pull the cork open, and so on and so forth. My experience has been with bourbons. Generally speaking, they tend to go flatter earlier if they've been opened. You get kind of a stale character to it, but even that takes a couple years. So if you're drinking inexpensive bourbons under $50, you're probably going to kill it easily within that time. What I have here and what I'm drinking tonight. So this is an empty bottle of the Glenmorangie La Santa, aged and then sort of vatted in a large, they call it a Solera, but it's more like a infinity bottle. And I've seen it at the distillery. If you notice, this is now empty. This, the bottle anyway, is the Glenmorangie 12-year-old Quinta Ruben. However, this is only 50% Quinta Ruben. What I did was, this was getting really low, and this was getting really low. They were about here. So it was about, about quarter of the bottle, third of the bottle, whatever left. So I was getting a little concerned because I've had these for a couple of years, and I thought, okay, is there a danger of them going flat? How can I put some more life into it, reduce the amount of oxygen? So I tasted it. I went 50-50 with the, this is a port cast finish. If you're not familiar with La Quinta. La Quinta Ruben is a port cast finish. This is a sherry finish. Both of them have the same original Glenmorangie original. I believe it's a 10-year-old. That's the base. So 10 years of the original, and then 2 years sherry cask or 2 years port cask. That's the difference between these two. So what I did was, since I liked it in a glass blended 50-50, I said, what the heck? I'll take a little funnel, and I'll put all of this into here. So this is now, I call it La Quinta Santa. This is Glenmorangie La Quinta Santa, and I really, really like it. In fact, it's sort of almost dangerously delicious sweet. It is really, really, really good. Hey, Silverlock Whiskey Club, how you doing, man? Silverlock says the video today looks blurry. John Cherry, how you doing, man? Gonzalez, let me know if it looks blurry. So I switched to another camera. I'm using a different camera than I normally use. And last week it was slightly blurry. I switched to, it's supposed to be a better camera. I downloaded the app for it. One of my goals for 2021 is to improve, to do live streams. I had stopped doing live streams, started doing live streams in December, just for Christmas. And so I wanted to improve live streams and rather than just using them as Hangouts. But originally the camera that I'm using, it's a Logitech, and usually it originally didn't have the software for Mac. It was just for PCs. Now they have the software that you can make adjustments for PCs, for Macs. So I know you guys don't want to hear about all this crap. And so I was been tinkering around with it rather than using the camera on the laptop. I'm using this. Hopefully it would be a little bit better. Anyway, so let me know if it's a little bit blurry. It probably still needs a little work. So the 7 different things in becoming a whiskey tuber that are a challenge. 1, learning how the platform works and all the behind scenes. The video is slightly soft, not terribly bad though. Let's see if I can improve it. Okay, I'm just gonna. I know I really wish I had somebody else to screw around with this. It might be because I'm using contrast. Now it becomes super dark. Now it becomes lighter. There you go. Color intensity. Now I'm a red monster. Okay. This is what happens when I get really drunk and sunburned. Anyway, right now it's set on auto. On auto. Whoa! I just turned blue. Everything's blue. All right. Not exactly. So better time to screw around with this is off camera. I can do private live streams. Anyway, let's pour ourselves something. So a number of different things have been on the back of my mind and wanting to improve my channel. When I hit 10,000 subscribers, I said, you know what? I really want to up my game. I want to improve my channel. And I've been really thinking about what is the next step that I want to do. One of them is to improve live streams, do better live streams, do consistent live streams, provide better content that is enjoyable during the hour that I'm live as well as on the replay. And a number of other things. Now, one of the things you've probably noticed is I've been putting out these shorts. It's a new platform, sort of a counter response to TikTok that YouTube's come up with. So I've been putting out these shorts. They have to be less than a minute. And I think I've been having fun with those. Unique to record, in a video, a vertical format, and then figure out how you're going to make it, pack in the information, how to be concise and to the point, how to do editing and so forth. So that one of the things is but the underlying issue in putting out more content. I've been putting out 5-7 days a week content. Been putting out 2 regular videos, one on the weekends, one in the midweek, and then putting out the shorts, plus doing a live stream. What the struggle is, whether you're talking about producing whiskey, producing wine, producing music, producing anything, is quality versus quantity. And the issue is a matter of time that you have to put into it. And there is sort of a point in which you have diminishing returns when you're doing quantity. So everybody likes craft whiskeys, craft wines, craft beers. But then we complain when the prices go up because they've become popular, but the quantity isn't there. Therefore, price, quality, supply and demand, prices go up. So then the distillery, brewery, winery, whatever, says, okay, well, we'll increase production. Is how do you increase production quantity and still maintain quality? So you got to do quality reviews, of checking so that you don't lose in the expansion. But there does come a point, oftentimes, I'm not saying this is universal, in which you sort of jump the ship, where you've lost it, and for the sake of quantity, you're losing quality. That's just the result, right? To be more meticulous, let's start with a wine. To be more meticulous in making quality wine, you're talking about the best property, the best real estate, with the best climate, the best soils for the right grapes. You're talking about hand harvesting at the right time, and then hand picking the grapes to sort. They go on a conveyor belt and you sort the grapes. Unless, like Opus One in the Napa Valley, they have this machine. It analyzes each and every individual grape, scans it, and then spits some of them out. But it's probably something like $5 million, right? So your mom and pop winery is not spending that kind of money on a machine that'll sort grapes. So when you start cutting out the quality control, you're using more machinery and everything becomes more automated. You have harvesting machines. Rather than hand harvesting, you have a harvesting machine that goes down and chop, 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 and just cuts mass of grapes. And you start getting some material other than grapes in there. And then you just have, a destem. You put it through a destemmer to remove the stems and the leaves. And what you got is what you got in terms of grape quality, right? You're not picking out lesser quality, underripe grapes, just bad grapes. So you get what you get. Now you're able to produce it faster and cheaper, but less quality. And then you talk about oak treatment. You start using, rather than using brand new oaks, a new oak barrel, American oaks, probably 600, give or take, $600 a barrel. French oak, $900 to $1,200 a barrel, right? So that's okay. So that adds to the cost. If you're going to cut corners, right, because you quality versus quantity, you start putting out larger quantity and trying to keep the price down to go to a different budget market. Hey, Whiskey Straight Out, how you doing, man? I know I'm always talking about wine, but there are parallels with this in the whiskey industry. When you say, okay, rather than buying expensive oak barrels to age it in, we're going to cut corners and we're going to use oak staves, in which we're going to use a neutral barrel or even a metal tank. And then we're going to put these metal staves or use oak tea bags or oil or some other oak alternative, put it in there, and that's going to give oak flavoring. The problem is you get some sort of oak character to it, but you don't get the maturation, the natural interaction between oak and wine. The same principle applies for whiskey. You don't get the natural interaction between and so the quality goes down. Go to Trader Joe's or some cheap place, get me buy me an $8 mass-produced wine, $2 chuck, pour me a glass, and I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. I'm going to tell you, they used an oak alternative. They did not mature this in oak, because you get sort of a harshness to the oak without the nice maturation. Yeah, you get an oak essence, a Silver Lock Whiskey Club. Let's take a little sip, get a little parched. I really like this. In case you're tuning in late, this is a 50-50 Glenmorangie La Santa and Quinta Reuben. I called it La Quinta Santa. Really, really nice, because I'm getting close to a bottle kill here. So, but the same applies to whiskey. Someone commented on my channel the other day, whiskey is very cheap to produce. All this stuff is overpriced, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't respond to him, but this is someone who is absolutely clueless as to what it takes to just start a distillery, all the overhead costs, manual labor, equipment costs, production costs, all the overhead, not to mention what you're buying, barley, yeast, and everything, and the manpower and everything else. So just to see if you guys can guess, maybe you guys don't know, say like Mark Rainier and Bruichladdich. Do you know, just guess, how much money do you think it cost to just start Bruichladdich? I'm talking before anything real production got started. What did they have to start with in terms of a budget? Silver Lock Whiskey Club sounds like a Christmas dram. It does. It has sort of a Christmas cake character to it. So on the nose, loads of vanilla. I get dark black fruits. Also, the sherry cask notes are still main there. And yes, that port is sitting in there. Derek Beckman, you're a little high. You're not you, but the price. It wasn't. He put 50 million. It wasn't quite that much. Dark black fruit notes. There's a little like a black licorice. I think when you, I know I'm sort of talking about two different topics at the same time. When you start combining ingredients, it's not like you get this and this. When they combine, they create a different third ingredient, right? You have hydrogen, you have oxygen, right? You put them together, you get water, right? Or if you have H2O2, you get hydrogen peroxide. So it turns on, depends on. So Silver Lock Whiskey Club. So just starting was 4 million. Was 4 million. But things weren't working right, and there were still a lot of things that needed to get done. So they, as out of pocket, before they could do anything, here's 4 million, and then things didn't work right. Things had to be fixed, and then they had to do this, then they had to do this, then they had to do that. So when you really start getting closer to up into full production, you actually, selling the bottles and everything else, then you're approaching probably the 15 to 20 million mark. And you haven't even turned a profit yet. Right? That's why I talked about in a joking fashion. It takes us a large fortune to make a small fortune in the whiskey business or in the wine business, right? That's a huge, I mean, that's out of your pocket. And this is why a lot of distilleries, and you guys probably heard this before, is a lot of distilleries, while they're waiting for the whiskey to age, they're making gin, or they're sourcing from somewhere else and then selling it as their own, and then they'll transition into selling their own spirit. Or if they made their money doing something else, say in the .com or somewhere else, then they can just sit on their cash and be patient and wait before they have any income. But that's a huge upfront amount of money. So quality price ratio, when the more meticulous you get, the more attention you pay to detail. Take Waterford in Ireland, the more expensive it's gonna get. The more expensive it's gonna get for production. But there is a diminishing return between how much you're putting in to how much of an improvement are you making in spending more money, how much, or time, right? I have more money than I do have time, right? Life is short, and that's probably true for most of us. There's a diminishing return to how much you're going to put in, how meticulous you're going to get. I think Waterford has probably gone too far in terms of want to make a profit. I'm really interested to see how they're going to do economically without the prices of the bottles just going insanely expensive, even more than what they are now. You know, I end up having to charge $200 a bottle. But we'll see. On the back end of this, I get like a black licorice. There's a root beer Dr. Pepper character on the back end, and it's sweet all the way through. But there's also that kind of slight herbally note of like an authentic real root beer. Really, really like it. I'm probably going to put an ice cube in it in just a little bit. So quality, quantity versus quality. In order to get greater quality, you're usually going to have to get more expensive because of production costs. And you get it more meticulous. Now, that doesn't mean that every whiskey that is insanely expensive is due to overhead, right? We know a lot of whiskeys and wines are insanely expensive because of the hype, because everybody wants it. Supply is low, whether artificially or in reality, and they could be holding back stock. And so the price is artificially high. Diamonds, there are no shortage of diamonds. The reason why diamonds are expensive for jewelry is because somebody cornered the market in the diamond market. There is a plenty of diamonds in the world, but they're only, and now the artificial diamonds are coming out that are man-made diamonds that are a lot more affordable. Than people are more satisfied with that. And I'll talk about satisfaction in a little bit. And when people are satisfied with that, then the demand for real diamonds goes down. All right. And just talk about champagne. In Champagne, underground, I'm not making this up, there are like 500 miles of cellars underground with champagne in it. 500 miles. That's like having a champagne cellar from Sacramento or San Francisco all the way down to San Diego. That's how far it would stretch, right? That's insane. There is no shortage of champagne. The reason why champagne is expensive or can be expensive is because they control how much they're releasing. They create the supply, the restrict the supply, and keep through marketing, keep the demand up. All right. And I'm always talking about wine, but we'll get back to whiskey. So that's in terms of production and understanding if you're owning a business and in production, whether in wine or whiskey. But what about us in terms of consumers, quality versus quantity? Because that's really what I think most of y'all and myself are interested in, is in what we buy, what we purchase, in quality versus quantity. Silver Lock Whiskey Club says some of the new distilleries have been putting out good stuff. Recently picked up a three-year-old Starward. I have a bottle. It's pretty good, but not worth the $70 you paid for it. Anthony Macchio, legal fees are a big expense to start up a business. Yes. And so I'd say I didn't even talk about, okay, you know, the buildings, the real estate, taxes, licenses, depending, you know, you're already going through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, TBB, whatever the legislative, you know, all the permits and so on and so forth. If you start doing sales and advertising for most of your wines, popular wines, on the shelf at the grocery store, the about 15% of the cost of the wine is from sales and marketing advertising. You got to pay for advertising. 15%. One of the smartest marketing schemes was Charles Shaw wine, or also known as $2 Chuck. They had no marketing, no advertising. It was all word of mouth. They sold through one store, that was Trader Joe's. They bought the cheapest bottles from China, and they put a cork in it so it didn't seem like a jug wine. And by word of mouth, there was a rumor going around that this was from bulk wine, for higher quality wineries, being bought from them. But of course, you can't reveal who you bought it from. And going into these bottles, so you're buying more expensive wines for only $2. And then it was in a bottle and had a cork in it, so it looked respectable. And that was the word of mouth, and it worked really, 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 really well. I think the story's bullshit. I've tasted the wines; it's crap. It's really, really bad. They're using old alternatives, like I talked about earlier. The white wine, if you get super ass cold, like a cheap beer, you can drink it. The reds are absolutely unpalatable. But in terms of a marketing scheme, keeping something really, really, cheap, a person can, with $25 plus tax, whatever, can go buy a whole case of this shit. There you go. All right. Now, in terms of us, quality versus quantity. I watch the Whiskey Tribe every day. I find them funny and humorous, and they're a nonprofit organization because it's a school, and so they get all the wines they're talking about usually can be something that's been donated, and guys donate these jug wines, these cheap, like this big, 1.75 milliliter, jugs, plastic jugs. So Daniel and Rex are reviewing this really shitty whiskey, and they inevitably, they don't give scores, but basically pen it, and then to have something satisfying, they'll grab some other bottle off the shelf and pretend they're doing a comparison between the jug wine and this higher quality, whiskey. Between this jug whiskey and a higher quality whiskey, it pretend they're doing a comparison, but they're not. They're just they just want to drink something because that jug shit is bad. Christian Malloy, how you doing, man? So, me personally, if someone donated to me a big 1.75 milliliter jug of whiskey, I'd say thank you, but no thank you. The shelf, it's not worth the shelf space. My shelf space is more valuable. The room I have in my house is more valuable than that junk. I'm not drinking that junk. So anyway, all right. So how do we then sort of sort through all this and try to figure out quality versus quantity, and really do quality price ratio purchases? Quality price ratio. So you're getting the best, or another way to put it is the best bang for your buck. The best bang for your buck. Now, because I don't have the same budget you do, I don't have the same whiskeys available that you do, so I don't know what's available local. Once you start having whiskey shipped, saving any money for availability just goes right out the window, particularly if you have it imported into the United States. So in terms of prices, once you're talking about not buying local, the whole issue of quality versus quantity starts going out the window, because whatever money you're saving by buying a less expensive whiskey, you're in terms of taxes and shipping, excuse me, you're losing out. Buy a whiskey at auction from the UK and have it shipped in the United States. If you bought, let's say you paid $100, excuse me, on auction for a whiskey, by the time it's the tariffs and the shipping and the taxes and the fees, you're probably paying $200 to $250 for that $100 bottle of whiskey. And the fact that you got it on auction, it probably was originally a $60 whiskey. So if you'd bought it at retail, you would have paid $60, but because you bought it at auction and had it shipped at the end of the day, you spent $250. Okay. That's why in my video, 10 tips for new whiskey drinkers, I said, avoid the secondary market. Avoid the secondary market. That was one of the reasons why. All right. So I got a little screen to bring up here with my 7 tips, principles for Quality price ratio, whiskeys. Alrighty. So the first is, and this is a lot of this is dependent on you, and I can't tell you this is what you should do or this is what you buy because you have to figure this out. And I could probably use graphs and the scales, and you're going here, no, but you have to figure that out. First is, what are your aroma and flavor preferences? Okay. Because that's going to determine what you're going to buy. Because at the end, if you look at point number 7, what quality level can you be content with? So what you can be content with is going to determine by, among other things, your aroma and flavor preferences. If you can be satisfied with something which other people might consider lesser quality, and you're happy, then you're better off. One of the things I tell people is the more you get into wines or whiskeys and you taste the good stuff, you find yourself very difficult to go back to drinking what you used to drink. When I first started off in wines, this is 1997. I buy wines for $6, $7. A 6-pack of beer at the time was probably $4 or $5. 6-pack of wine was probably, or 4-pack was probably about $5, $6. 1997. I'm going to put one ice cube on this. Hold on just a second. It's 84 degrees here today. So, so it's a nice warm spring day here in California. I'm going to put one ice cube. Now I was working 2 jobs and going to school. And so I had, tuition and everything else and all that, I was making car payments and all that kind of crap. So what I could afford to put into wine, when I bought a $10 bottle of wine, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm spending $10 on a bottle of wine. You could get wine coolers for $5. You get a 6-pack of beer for $4 or $5, right? And I was like, wow, that's insane. This is expensive. I couldn't believe this. Well, once I started studying wine, eventually went back and studied enology and winemaking, and you tasted a $15 wine, a $20 wine, a $30 wine, right? And this same it's the same as with whiskeys, right? You might start off with some super inexpensive whiskey, and you're like, wow, this is really, really, really good. Wow. And man, I would give this a real high score, but then you taste something else, something a little more expensive, something that had a little more care put into it. And you're like, oh, wow. Once you get a taste of the good stuff, it's hard to go back. This is a story I've told it maybe once or twice before. My first introduction to opera music. Well, actually, I heard opera growing up around the house, but I didn't like it. On PBS, Michael Bolton was on PBS, and I kind of liked him, but he was more of a 70s and 80s rock guy than opera. Anyway, so it was like a live show on PBS. I guess he did an album called My Secret Passion, in which he sang operatic arias like, Nessun Dorma and all that. Una Votiva Lagrima, whatever. And so I heard him sing a song during the thing on PBS. I thought, oh, I kind of like that, So I went and bought a Michael Bolton's. I know people are like opera right now, or their nails are, it's like I'm scratching nails on a chalkboard. They're going, no. Okay. So I bought the CD, listened to it, and I liked it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting into opera. Well, then on PBS again, Andrea Bocelli was on there, right? A step up, Andrea Bocelli, right? An actual opera singer. Next day, I was buying all his CDs. And then I listened to, of course, Placido Domingo and Luciano Pavarotti. Then I started listening to some older guys from the 70s, 60s, UC Bierling, and so on and so forth. All right. I know you guys are not opera fans, but whatever. I like Motorhead, Metallica, Johnny Cash. I'm very eclectic in my music as I am with my whiskeys and wines. Anyway, so years go by. I've developed a completely different understanding of opera and what opera is supposed to sound like. I then went back and listened to Michael Bolton singing opera arias, and I was like, ah, and I could not believe that previously I thought that was good. Well, the same thing happens when you start liking really expensive whiskeys, when you start liking expensive wines. When you drive, say you drive an old beater car, but it gets you from to work and you don't care. And you know, drive down the road, your old pickup truck, whatever. And then you travel somewhere and you get a rental car, right? Just for a trip. All of a sudden it's got all the gadgets in it. And you're like, oh man, it would be nice to have a new car, right? Or if you're in someone else's car, someone else has a really nice, expensive car. You're like, oh man, it'd be so nice. And then you go back to your beater car. It's the same experience. You don't find it, you're not as quite satisfied. You almost kind of wish I never knew about more expensive whiskeys. I wish I never knew about more expensive wines because I was happy with the stuff that I now think is shit. The stuff that I used to think that was stuff I thought was good. And now I'm like, oh, that's shit. By the way, if there's some whiskey or wine or even music that you used to listen to and now you think is shit, and you meet someone who likes that and they're enjoying it, don't put it down in front of them. Don't put it down. Just introduce them to better whiskeys and see if they come along. Yes, everyone, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. It's sort of like there's that one scene in The Matrix, right? Who's the bald guy who ends up betraying everybody? He's sort of like Judas Iscariot. Cypher, right? Cypher, right? He was in the Matrix and he was ignorant. And then Morpheus takes him out of the Matrix and shows him what reality really is. And they realize reality sucks. And he tells Neo, if he had told us what reality is, we'd have told him to take that blue pill and shove it up his ass, right? Right? That's what, right? Ignorance of business. So there's this one scene then. So then there's that one scene where Cypher is meeting up with Mr. Smith at a restaurant. And it's one of my favorite scenes. Cypher meets Mr. Smith. Just search for it on YouTube. Cypher meets Mr. Smith. And he says, you know what I've learned? And he's got this glass of wine. And he's like, you know what I've learned? You know what I've learned all these years? And he's kind of doing this, but he's got a glass of wine, right? I want to be someone. He goes, I want to be someone famous. Just plug me back in the Matrix, and I'll get you Morpheus. And he's like, you know what I've learned through all these years? And then they cut to Mr. Smith. What's that? Or something like, what's that? Ignorance is bliss. And then they cut to this lady on the harp goes, ring. So his thought was, ignorance was bliss. Just plug me back in the Matrix, and then I'll be happy again, and I'll get out of this suckhole, right? This shitty world, right? There's a little truth to that, is that if you don't know there's something better out there, and you've not tasted it, and you don't know any better, then you can be very happy and content with the cheap stuff that you currently got. But once you taste the good stuff, right? So RM Smart, he said, is this like old Quinta Ruben? This is La Quinta Santa. I mentioned this earlier. This is La Quinta Santa. You say, what is that? It's 50% La Santa and 50% Quinta Ruben. So I blended it. First, I tried it in a glass, 50-50. I liked it. And then I put the two together in this bottle because I was running low on both. So to reduce the amount of oxygen that's in there, I put them out. So that's what I'm drinking. Ever hear Aretha Franklin fill in for Pavarotti? I like Pavarotti, but I didn't like it when he tried to do popular music. Just stick to, and I prefer Pavarotti for Donizetti arias. Puccini, it's okay, but I prefer him for Donizetti. I actually like Andrea Bocelli more for Bocchini, but that's a whole nother discussion. We're not going to get off on that. And I prefer Sammy Hagar. I know this is heresy. I prefer Sammy Hagar over David Lee Roth for Van Halen. I know. I do. I just prefer. I like the fact that they had a second guitar, so it added another layer to it. And I like the power vocals of Sammy Hagar. I didn't like the vocals of David Lee Roth, but I thought he was a good front man in terms of his jumping around and doing stuff. All right. So, Anso Walrus says, what's the best Glenmorangie? The one that you have in your hand and what you like. If you like, some people are more over sherry cask than they are port cask. So you're going to like the La Santa or over the Quinta Rubin. And then there are more expensive bottles as you go up from there. All right. So let's get back to the 7 tips and we'll keep going on. All right. Yeah, I know some people are going to get upset with my comment about Sammy Hagar. All right. Next. So in terms of, think of like a target. I'm going to target in the quality price ratio. Imagine you have concentric circles. This is what I'm going to buy, right? And this is what you're going to focus on. You have to figure out what you're going to target when and this can be determined by your aroma and flavor preferences. Personally, I happen to be very eclectic in my music and in my wines and in my whiskeys, so I can be happy with a lot of different stuff, which is why I do everything. I don't just do Scotch and I don't just do bourbon. I like to study and know everything because I like everything. Type preferences, right? So aromas and flavors. Do you like them sweet? Do you like them dry? Do you like them earthy? Do you like them peated? Do you like them spicy? All right. And then you figure out that, and then you figure out type preferences. What type of whiskey? Bourbon, Scotch, Irish, and so forth. And then there's the next place. And this is the line that's going to move. At number 3, target price, $40, $50, $60 or up. So when you're looking at whether my videos or other whiskey tubers, a lot of the bourbon guys do these videos. Top 5 bourbons for under $50. Top 10 bourbons for under $50. Top 5 bourbons for under $30, whatever that is. And so what they're doing is they have chosen the target price, right? Now, let's just pick $50, an easy number, $50. Okay, now how many whiskeys, bourbon, scotches, whatever, are in that price, in that neighborhood? A lot are going to get eliminated because they cost a lot more money, right? So let's take 2 whiskeys extremes right here. And let's take another one. It's an extreme cheapness. All right. What's your target price? And what can you be content with? So that's going to be determined by you. Now, I think, and I know a lot of people have this issue, is it's easy to get out of hand. I avoid certain things because I don't do things halfway. I go 110%. I was at a whiskey shop today. I picked up a real nice bottle, actually. I was at a local whiskey shop. Picked this up today. This is the blue Irish. This is the Blue Spot 7-year-old cask strength. Non-chill filters. That bottled at whatever in the hell it's at. 58.7. And next time I do an Irish series, I'll get into that. Anyway. But while I was at the whiskey shop, I was talking to a guy, and he was talking about golf. And I said, I have purposely avoided golf because I don't need another obsession. Playing golf is expensive, right? In terms of fees and getting out there, golf clubs, time. And it's time consuming. So I avoided golf because if I got into it, I would probably have to stop doing whiskey, start doing wines, and I'd be out on the golf course all the damn time. Same thing with video games. I don't play video games because most of them, in order to get any good at it, to be competitive online, you're going to have to spend all your life playing video games. Now, during COVID, people stuck in the house, video game channels are boomed, and video game sales are boomed. I have one video game I play. It's on my phone, and it's a card game. It's Hearts, right? You can play in 5 minutes, and you're done. You're not going to sit there for 8 hours. You could, I guess, but it's not a consuming game. You're sitting on a toilet, and you can play some cards, right? You're sitting at an airport waiting to get on the plane. You can play a game. That's its basic spot. All right. So, so what's your target price? Now, we can get carried away. Hello, look at all this. We can get carried away and spend too much and become obsessive. I gotta have it. Ooh, did you hear that they have the new this? They have the new that. Ooh, I gotta have it. Ooh, I gotta get. Oh, I gotta get that one. Oh, I gotta get that one. Oh, I gotta get that one. And we whiskey tubers contribute. We probably stoke the fires. We pour gasoline on the fires of the I gotta have it, right? Because we do a review of. Excuse me. Got to click things. We do of a whiskey. We do a review of a whiskey. This is the most awesome whiskey. This is a fantastic. I give this 90 points or whatever else. And then you guys, as a viewer, go, "Oh man, that sounds really, really good. I got to get that." And then I've had a lot of people tell me they're buying whiskeys based on what I say in a video. They're buying a lot of whiskeys based on what I say in the video. And I'm like, holy moly. I become very self-conscious that I really need to be careful in how I score things and be really, really accurate. But I also realize we are in a very strange economic time. And I'm not going to tell you how to manage your money and manage your finances, but we're in very strange. We have a lot of people out of work, businesses going out. A lot of businesses are booming. A lot of businesses are sinking. If you're totally dependent on people actually coming into your business, like a restaurant, you're screwed. Some of them are starting to make a comeback, but you're screwed. If you're able to sell online and do online sales, you could be doing really, really, really well. All right. So here's two extremes. All right. This is the Joseph Magnus cigar blend. When on first release, it's about $175. They sell like that. You're then talking $200 and up, and then 6 months later, probably $300. They skyrocket up in value really, really, really quick. Everyone says fear of missing out, tapping our hardwired survival programming of non-survival. That is very. You know what? I'm gonna bring that. I gotta find that quote and bring that up. Where's the chat? Hold on, I gotta find that. No, not that one. I got different windows up. Where is the chat thing? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to bring that up. There you go. I'm going to show that one. There you go. Fear of missing out. I have different. It's a little hard to control this on this. Fear of missing out. Tapping our hardwired survival programming for non-survival. In my humble opinion. I think it's accurate. I think it's very, 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 very accurate. It's believing a lie that the consumption of things will bring me true lasting happiness. If I only had this, fill in the blank, that woman, that man, that drink, that joint, that house, that car, that jewelry, that whatever, it could be anything, then I would be happy. Then I would be content. And I'm going to talk about contentment. This feeds into what we'll talk about later on. But the true key, the quality price ratio, is not going to really be about, and I'm sort of kind of giving my punchline to all this. It's not going to be about finding this or that bottle. It's about finding contentment in life. But I'm going to add it myself. All right. Anyway, excellent quote. It's a really sharp observation, and I think really, really well said. All right, next. All right. When are diminishing returns on increase of price? When are the diminishing returns of? Well, I'm gonna say this again. When are the diminishing returns on increase of price? When does the quality price ratio diminish? What kind of available? Got to figure that out. And what quality level can you be content with? All right. So that's the rest of the points of the lines here. All right. Now let's get back to talking about what I got in front of me. All right. This was my whiskey of the year for 2020. Right. And I'm primarily a Scotch guy. Right. But this was my whiskey of the year. Gave it 95 points. If I recall correctly. Absolutely spectacular bourbon. I'm about 20% of my bottles of bourbon. Absolutely love this whiskey. This, and I've never actually, I did one video on whiskey and Coke, and so I bought it for that. And then I did a short video, like one of my 60-second short videos. This is Johnny Walker Red. Johnny Walker Red. I would never bother to review this because I don't think this is a drinking whiskey for just, I'm sure plenty of people like it. And people, if your budget is $20, then here you go. It's about $17. Just to make the math easy, I'm gonna get this out of the way so it's not a distraction. Just to make the math easy, $175, $17.50. So for one of these, I can buy 10 of these. If you can be content with this, you know what? I have a little Johnny Walker Red. I like it. It makes me happy. I'm not looking for something super fancy. It's simple. I put some Coke in it, and I'm good. If you can find contentment, happiness there, boom, you're a happy person for only $17.50. But what you get a taste for something super, super expensive, and you acclimate to what's super expensive, what takes a much higher level of production and precision and blending and aging and everything else, you tend to start buying the more expensive bottles. But even for me, this doesn't become an everyday drinker. This is a special occasion whiskey. This is not an everyday drinker, right? It will never be an everyday drinker. This won't even be a once a year drinker. All right. So somewhere between $17.50 and $175 is a zone, and you have to figure it out for yourself what it is a zone, a price mark that, you know what, I can afford this. What can I then buy in that neighborhood of prices? All right. That's basically the quality price ratio issue. And for price range, some people might be $20. It might be 30, might be 40, might be 50, might be 100, It's all going to depend on you. All right. Let's get back to my thing here. All right. So figure out your target price. So when are the diminishing returns on increase of price? So let me drink some water. It is warm today. If you think there's an equal amount of increase in quality, let's say $20 units, okay, or $10 units, because there are mellow corn, I think it's at $8, between $8 and $11 for mellow corn. $10, $20, $30, $40. Let's say $10 increments. Definitely in wine. And one of the things I realized is when I was first got into wine, I was drinking $10 wines. I noticed when I went from a $10 and under wine to $15, the quality increase was like doubled. It was exponential. It was like boom, the quality increase, and just spending $5 more was huge. Going from 15 to 20, another huge leap. Boom. And man, going from 15, what you can get for 15 versus what you get 20, if you $5 more is boom. So if I had a graph, it would be going, so $10 going to, in terms of quality, right? You have the scale, right? One is price. One direction is price, and the other is quality. So you'd be going boom, right? There's this huge spike in the quality, and huge spike in quality, and huge spike. But at what point of spending more money is the return on the percentage of increase in quality start to slow down? And it's that, and that's what you want to figure out. That's what you're going to want to figure out. For me, for wines, because I still drink wines. I had last weekend, I had a Chianti Classico, which is Sangiovese, 100% Sangiovese. I spent $33 with tax. I think it was. It hit all the buttons. Boom, 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 boom. I had pizza. The best wines to have with pizza is something Sangiovese based. Zinfandel works well too, but Sangiovese. So I had a Chianti Classico, it's like $33, 2016. So for me, if I bought a Sangiovese for under $20, it wouldn't scratch the itch. It wouldn't meet the sense of satisfaction, right? But I could spend $100, but would it really, in terms of the sense of satisfaction, increase all that much more than what I spent for that $33? Probably not. For me, for if I was drinking, say, doing more wines and whiskeys, $40 for me, $40 for a bottle of wine is sort of the target price for quality price ratios. What's the best wine I can get for $40, right? And you have 2 bottles of wine per week, right? Because once you open a bottle of wine, you got to finish it. So a bottle of wine, you finish it in 2 or 3 days, right? So you cook a meal, whatever it is. You have 2 glasses. You have some leftovers. The next day, you have the leftovers for dinner, and you maybe finish the bottle, or maybe you finish it the 3rd day. That bottle lasted me 3 days. I had some of the pizza one night, had leftover pizza from the next night, and then I had like this much wine left on the 3rd day, and I finished that off. Right, $33. Now, thinking about whiskeys, I mean, you buy most of us are probably buying $30, $40, or $50 whiskeys, and they lasted for a couple of years. So when you're spending money on wine, it's gone, right? But for me, the price range, quality price ratio, that's sort of for me, that's the sweet spot, is that $40 range. Now, the problem is, let me take this off the screen right now because I'm staring at that. I'll keep bringing this back up. For me, though, you can get a very inexpensive, I know I'm keep talking about wine, Zinfandels, which is a very popular grape here in California. A lot of it is grown not too far from where I live right now. You can get killer Zinfandels, $15, $20. Pinot Noir, and I'm a big Pinot Noir fan, I can't get a decent Pinot Noir for under $40, right? This is similar to choosing bourbons versus Scotch, right? This is very similar. So you can get higher quality bourbons for less money than you can, this is my opinion, you can with Scotch. So if you're a bourbon guy, you could probably get by with satisfaction with what you're buying and drinking for less money with Scotch, but the Scotch whiskey industry is changing, so they might be doing a catch-up. And let's take a little sip. I waited too long. I've been talking so much, the ice has melted too much. But we can remedy that. But it's nice and cool. Still sweet. It's just the ratio of water to whiskey kind of overwent because I was too busy talking. That wouldn't happen if I was just sitting around drinking a joint. It would have been gone already. So if you're only into Scotch and you're here in the United States, it's going to cost us more to get Scotch here in the United States, and availability is going to be an issue than it is in the UK and Scotland. Although sometimes we can get stuff here they can't get over there. Or if you're in Canada, I know Rob, Whiskey in the Six, and Jeremy sometimes make comments about the lack of ability of some certain bottles, and particularly, bourbons and stuff, whatever. So they have that challenge as whiskey tubers. But if you can find that sweet spot of what you can afford, maybe your wife, my wife won't complain when I buy a $40 whiskey. That might be a determining factor as well, right? Or I don't feel guilty when I spend $40. I would feel guilty that I was being irresponsible if I spent $100. And whatever that level is going to depend on you and your budget and so forth. Then hunt around in that category of what's the best whiskeys I can get for $40, $50, or whatever is in your target range. My recommendation then is, so last week I did that live stream. I talked about my top 10 recommended whiskey tubers for people who are new to whiskey. And I specifically chose people who are Scotch focused, bourbons focused, Irish focused, and generalist. I consider myself a generalist. And I purposely chose people in different whiskey tubers in different categories. So my recommendation is, once you figure out your sweet spot, what you can afford, right, and figuring out high quality price ratios, that's where you want to know who to go to for that particular category, right? So if you're looking at Campbelltown Scotch whiskeys, Rob Whiskey and a Six, and Jeremy Sipper Social Club, right? And this is who I would go to, right? Yes, I've been to the distilleries. I've been to Campbellton. I've had a number of different whiskeys, but I haven't had as many as they have, right? Bourbons. If someone comes up and asks me a question about bourbons, I can talk all day about bourbon, but not as much as Jason, the Mash and Drum. I can tell this, this so much about bourbon and talk about this bourbon, that bourbon, this bourbon, that bourbon, that bourbon, and I can go on and on about bourbon just fine. I can hold my weight in bourbon, but to go to that next level is who has had, maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 bourbons in the $50 range. It's not me, right? That's when you go Mash and Drum or any other respectable bourbon reviewer. I'm sure there's plenty of them, right? That's when you go to those guys to figure that out. Or whether it's Scotch, and then find people who, of course, who know your palate. They're the ones that are going to help you then hunt in that category. Now, it may not even be a whiskey tuber. It could be a whiskey magazine, a whiskey advocate, or a blog. The people who write blogs. Check those sources as well. I think it's quicker to simulate information through a whiskey tuber, and usually you're looking at someone who's actually sitting there drinking it. My recommendation will also be focus on the guys who are paying for it out of their own pocket. I'm not saying someone who gets free whiskeys isn't giving you an authentic evaluation, all right, because I don't know what's going on in their head. But my recommendation, I would lean more towards, say, Ralphie, someone who's who's paying for it out of their own pocket, and therefore what they tell you is the straight up. That would be my recommendation. This is really, really good. And for those of you who don't know, I had some dental work done. I have some temporaries in there, so I can't evaluate whiskey in terms of my aromas and flavors are fine. It's the mouthfeel I can't evaluate. So I'm doing alternative content right now since I can't do technical whiskey reviews. All right, let's bring the screen back up again. All right, so what are the diminishing returns on increase of price? In other words, more money versus better quality. What is that turnaround point? When does the scale start to diminish? That's what you are going to have to figure out. For me, for wines, it's that $40 to $50 range. For me, for whiskeys, it's about $100. But that's for me. All right. And if I'm buying Pinot Noir, unless I heard some great review, I don't even look at Pinots for under $40. I don't even bother looking at them because I just know they're just, and then I'm looking at where are they from, right? Are they from the Russian River, Santa Cruz Mountains, in terms of California? Are they from the Willamette Valley? Are they from Dundee Hills in the Willamette Valley? What else are they from in Burgundy? And that's when I start looking at all those other factors, right? And same thing with whiskeys. So write this down, okay? My target price is $50, and where at a point in which there's diminishing returns, okay, my budget's $50, and I find that the return on investment, if you want to think of it that way, really starts to diminish once you pass $100. Then I'm probably never ever, in terms of what you've tasted, maybe, that I'm not even ever going to get near that $100. And I'm really going to find that, you know what? I'm really content with the $50 whiskeys. And I don't feel like I need to go out and buy some and spend an insane amount of money on a whiskey that's over $100, right? I've done reviews where the title on my thumbnail says, "Is this bottle worth $170?" I have a Middleton Very Rare right here, right? It's superb whiskey. Is it worth the money that it cost? No. I'm sorry. It's not. So figure out then, when does the quality price ratio diminish? Then it comes down to availability. And I'm sorry, there's nothing you can't fix that. Now, depending on where you live, you can have things shipped, but shipping, taxes, and all that just adds to the price. Just adds to the price. And so then ultimately, what quality level can you be content with? Now, I put aside here 4 bottles that for me are high quality price ratio whiskeys in different categories. If you are watching this either on live or you're watching this on the replay, and you have, this doesn't have to be a one-way discussion between me just spitting out information, right? Volvisti 33, he says prices in Greece. The Macallan 12 is 72 euro. Glenkinchie Distiller's Edition is 58 euro. Okay, now you have to look. Now, I mean, I don't know what that equates to in American dollars, but he says Glenfarclas 10, 105 cask strength, 57. Tullamore Dew, 19 euro. Jameson, 20 euro. Ardbeg 10, 43 euro. Cragmore 12, 40 euro, etc. Okay. Anyway, so another thing, when you're buying, if you're buying from overseas and having shipped, before you have it shipped, figure out if you're here in the United States, figure out what the conversion rate's going to be. All right. So I set aside for my collection 4 whiskeys of different types and different price ranges that I think are high quality price ratio whiskeys. If you watch this on the replay, or there's someone else, if you have some other recommendations, and I'll give you the prices for them. Now, just because I would say this, just because your target price is $50, that's okay every once in a while, and buy a special whiskey, a whiskey for special occasion, a wedding, having a baby, Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. So your budget might be $50, but you buy one of these as your special occasion whiskey, and so you spend, 4 times your normal budget for a bottle in order to have a special occasion whiskey, and that's a smart way to go. All right. Put this up here. Put this away here. All right. So these are just going to be 4 whiskeys from my collection. And people may disagree with me, right, about quality price ratio. And I'm almost tempted to go buy a bottle of the Quinta Rubin and a bottle of another bottle of the La Santa, and just blend them together and have 2 bottles of called the La Quinta Santa, because I really like this. It has this really cool Dr. Pepper root beer character on the background. And at lower temperatures, through ice, this is actually a sort of a rich, sweet whiskey you could enjoy in summertime and cool it down. I think it would work just fine. As a drink, it becomes a drink. Now, people in Scotland, where in the middle of summer, it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit and pouring down rain. That doesn't sound. All right, the first is we're talking about bourbons. Talk about bourbons. This is actually my second bottle. I have another bottle. This one's I actually have a bottle here that's almost empty. It's almost empty. So this will be killed shortly. And really, if your bottle is this, by the way, if your bottle is this low, you probably should kill it or put into a smaller bottle right away. The oxygen exposure is too great. I'm willing to bet right now this is probably flat. It's probably tasting fairly flat. I'll taste it and whatever. You can always, and if it does get a little flat with bourbon, I like to make bourbon cornbread, so I can always make a bourbon cornbread with it. All right. So Buffalo Trace. For a short period of time, these Buffalo, $23 in my neighborhood, 23 American dollars in my neighborhood for Buffalo Trace. It's a standard classic bourbon profile, your stereotypical bourbon profile, caramel corn, butterscotch, vanilla, cinnamon, baking spices, maybe a little bit of peach cobbler in there, a little bit of woodiness, and it's just sort of your stereotypical bourbon that scratches the itch for $23, right? Now, someone else may have other bourbons that they like even more. In that price range, feel free to make a recommendation. My feelings will not be hurt. Antel 10 Broke is having a 14-year-old Glen Spey. Buffalo Trace in Greece costs $26. Interesting. If I'm ever in Greece, if I'm going to Greece, I'm drinking Greek wines. Greek wines on their own, like Asaterico, on their own, I don't like drinking them, but with Greek food, it's heaven. It's heaven. When I lived in the Bay Area, there was a Greek restaurant nearby, and I would go buy a bottle of Greek wine and buy some Greek food and bring it home. Fantastic. Greek wine cannot truly be understood and really appreciated unless you have it with Greek food. It's just a match. That's a wine that needs food, right? And that's a food that needs Greek wine. Don't drink some California wines. Drink a Greek wine with it. All right. So Buffalo Trace, $23. Someone here recommend Dill Chakir from Wild Turkey 101, right? Paul M says Buffalo Trace is 41. Retsina. No, don't drink Retsina. That's another Greek wine that has resin in it. No, thank you. No, don't drink that stuff. All right. Buffalo Trace. So for bourbon, Buffalo Trace. If you want something a little more weedy, a little softer, easy approachable, you might go Maker's Mark, right? There you go. Now that's $23. Again, go back to the concept of what's your target price. If your target price is closer to $50, what you're comfortable with $70. Okay, if you can go $70, and that's a target price range, Elijah Craig barrel proof, right? Depending on where you live. Or small batch. All right. So this is Elijah Craig barrel proof, the cask strength, and then I also have a small batch. I think the small batch is about $45-$50 in my neighborhood, and a barrel proof is $70 to $80 in my neighborhood. One thing about living in California, I would say whiskey prices in comparison to the rest of the country tend to be fairly good. A lot of people say, "Man, I can't believe the prices you pay." All right, Irish whiskeys. Irish whiskeys. This is a blended Irish whiskey with a high malt content. Silverlock says of 1920 is probably the best value in terms of quality price ratio. Everybody feel free. I mean, in the comments below, after on the replay or this, to what you think, right? It's not just about listening to whiskey tubers, but listen to the whiskey tuber community. Get to know whiskey people, the regulars, like Richie Z or some others, Tom R. I mean, and a lot of you guys, Mike Bennett, guys who, they've been tasting, experiencing whiskeys for a long period of time. Get to know them as well if you can. Okay, $28 to $30 in my neighborhood. It's a heavily sherry cask, so it hits. If you really like the dried fig dates raisin notes, that sherry cask influence. That's your itch. You want to get scratched. This does it. This really, really does it. Other ones, the Sexton does it for about $26. And there's a couple others, but for under $30, for me, $30 and under for a sherry cask influence, and because it has a higher malt content for an Irish blend, you do get that sense of the malt character in the background, which I like, but it also has the texture of a stereotypical texture of an Irish whiskey, the smooth character to it. So this is nuts. So if I was going to buy, we may be hitting some economic crunches over the next few years, right? I don't have a whole lot of confidence in what our current government is doing and how they're handling things. Sorry, I'm not going to get political, but I think shit's going to get worse. I don't think this is the team to get us out of an economic challenge. Sorry. I just don't. I think we're fucked. But I'm not going to go on about that. So you may ratchet down in terms of what you're spending, right? You might start spending less money and be looking for start spending less money on whiskeys because shit's getting difficult. I'm just telling you, we're fucked. All right, sorry. They just put out 50,000 workers taking by getting rid of the pipeline so that they can spend money on a polluting truck to ship oil from and gas or fuel from Canada, right? And guess who's getting paid? Who's making money in the pocket off of that deal? All right. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. I'm just saying. Ralphie says too, man. We could be in challenging times. So the concept of quality price ratio may become even more important to a lot of people, right? So this is a whiskey for me. It's after dinner. I just want to chill out. I'm going to watch television. I'm in the mood. Biden and his cronies are idiots. Yeah. Sorry. I know you're not supposed to get political, but this is going to affect your ability to buy whiskeys. All right. So this is probably like last week. In fact, it was on a Thursday night. Might have been last Thursday. I wanted that sense of sherry. There's a time when I'm in the mood for something that has a buttery Chardonnay, a real fine Pinot Noir, a real tannic, black currant, rich, earthy Cabernet Sauvignon. Right, I'm in the mood for that. I'm in the mood for something a real light, crisp Sauvignon Blanc. I'm in the mood for a real, rich caramel, corn, oak, vanilla bomb bourbon. I'm in the mood for a heavy sherry whiskey. Whatever is driving, what you're in the mood for that time, right? I'm in the mood for right around the corner for me is like a really killer Mexican restaurant. If you're in the mood for Mexican, boom, right there. Pizza, whatever you're in the mood for, right? I'm really in the mood for this particular type of music, whatever. I grab this, pour some in, probably about there, put in one ice cube. And I think I was watching the Scotch for Dummies at the time. And I'm just hanging out or watching a movie or television or whatever else. I'm not thinking about the whiskey and not spending all the time. And yet it's scratching that sherry itch. And I was just really, really enjoying it. Really, really enjoying it. All right. So that's from my Irish. If someone else watching this, your Irish whiskeys, feel free to drop in an alternative. Barry Chandler over at Stories and Sips. He went live about an hour before I do. He may have all the other alternatives. But in that price, Sexton is pretty good. And where is that other one? Maybe I finished it already. All right. So that was for now. Another sherry. No, talking about sherry, but now going Scotch, going from Irish to Scotch. Hands down, real easy. Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. The Bunnahabhain 12-year-old Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. I used to think it had maybe like 3 ppm of peat. I think what I was getting was maybe something off the cask. Boom. Yeah, Christopher Molloy. Yeah, boom. This is like, and this is not just me. A lot of people said the exact same thing. I'm not alone. There's nobody who's going to argue with me over this one. The Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. Yeah, everybody in the chat right now is just going boom, solid. Cameron Youngstrom says solid. Mike Bennett says yay. G-Man says so true what you're saying. I'm Smart says Bunnahabhain is getting tough to find for me. I'm sorry to hear that. Christian Malloy agree on the Bunnahabhain 12. Good value. In my neighborhood, $60. $60. Bunnahabhain 12. In fact, $60 in my neighborhood. I'm going to finish this. That is tasty, man. And it's refreshing. It's like drinking a cold root beer, Dr. Pepper, a little bit of spice, a little bit of herbal notes. And there's a richness and it's sweet all the way through. Now we're going to go Bunnahabhain 12. All right. I need to get a little bit of water. I'll be right back. Hold on just a second. I already drank all my water. So we talked about bourbon. We talked about an Irish. Now we're talking about a non-peated Scotch from Islay. But we went from an Irish whiskey with sherry influence, now a Scottish whiskey influence. Absolutely superb, right? But we're also jumping in price, right? So we're talking about your target price as to what you can afford. Just went from $30 to $60. We just doubled the price range. All right. Now, if your price range and your target price for quality price ratio can accommodate that increase, then you're good. You're good, right? Now, the one of the things you can do is, in terms of how much you're spending, if you're on a tight budget, maybe maybe the Bunnahabhain 12 is your special time whiskey, right? The special occasion whiskey, kind of like the Joe Magnus cigar blend is, at 175. Maybe this is your special occasion whiskey because you're on a tighter budget, you're in college or whatever, you got wife and 5 kids and they're in diapers and you got a mortgage and whatever else, and maybe you're not working, right? Maybe this becomes your special occasion whiskey, which is fine. So, or once in a while, it doesn't have to be special, just your once in a while. So if you like sherry, so let's say you have a dram once or twice a week, and you have this, the $30 one, a couple times a week is when you, maybe just weekends. But once every 5 or 6 weeks, I got the sun coming in through the window now. It's going to start getting weird. But once a month, payday weekend, whatever. Ooh. The lights just flickered. Like we're about to have a power outage. That was weird. The light just flickered. I paid the bill. All right. So maybe let's take a month. Let's say, so 3/4 of the time you're having this, and then on that 4th time you have this, a step up, right? So you're not depriving yourself of what you really, really like, what you really, really prefer to be drinking all the time, and it's sort of not in the same category. So I'm not on PG&E. Thankfully, we have our own local power company here, but I just had a weird, I don't know if you saw it or not. There was this weird flicker. All right. The Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. Wow. So nice. Silver Lock says it's special when I watch you live. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. The Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. It's funny. This is actually smooth, silkier, richer. So good. Now, right now, I don't trust my palate because I have temporaries. But obviously, I've already reviewed this. This is not my first bottle. I've gone through a couple of bottles of these. Absolutely spectacular. Now, someone want to guess? You want to guess my 4th whiskey for quality price ratio? Somebody want to guess what it could be? What do you think? What do you think is going to be my 4th whiskey for quality price ratio? Now, giving a clue, it's going to be sort of in the price range of the Bunnahabhain 12. Right. You guys know me. You guys know me so well. You guys know me so well. No mystery here. That's so funny. Who was the first? Oops. Oh shit. Sorry. Now I just screwed up something. Silverlock was the first. He said Ardbeg 10. Cameron said 10. Mike Bennett said 10. Glenn said Ardbeg 10. Rick McClure said Lefroy 10. Christian Malloy, Ardbeg 10. Anyway, so people know. Mark says McAllen M. Yeah, right. Yeah, a couple $1,000. No, so I'm not that much of a Mr. Moneybags. There you go. And yeah, right. So both Glenmorangie and Ardbeg are made by Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, LVMH. Right. And they also are wine producers, LVMH. They also make champagne. Anyway, right. This used to be $46. It's now $50 to $55 in my neighborhood. But the Bunnahabhain is like $60. So currently in my neighborhood where I live, there's only a $5 difference between these two. And for me, in terms of, that for me, well, I think that there's a diminishing return on when you go over $100. So for me, for high quality price ratio whiskeys, these two are hard to beat. And for my budget, they're in that neighborhood. Yeah, I buy a lot of others freaking insanely expensive whiskeys, right? That Blue Spot cash strength is now like anywhere between $190 and $300 and up. Yeah, that's expensive. Anyway, absolutely. The Ardbeg 10 always. And this is probably my 5th or 6th bottle, and I've got this much left. So it's time to buy another one. I got this much left on it. I probably should kill that one soon. And time to start another one. Alrighty. So I want to go back to my 7 points real quick. All right. So what quality level can you be content with? Now, I'm of the philosophy, the belief system that being content is something you learn. You have to learn to be content in whatever state you're in. When I look at history, my grandfather and my father going through the Depression. My dad was born in 1930, right? So they went through the Depression. My dad had a very poor childhood. I remember he said for one time for one Christmas, what he got for Christmas was an orange. He got an orange. During the Depression, the Great Depression, which we may be heading for another. I'm not a prognosticator of doom, but we may be heading towards another one. It was then that the Bay Bridge was built and the Golden Gate was built, and they probably lost at least 6 people. Probably about 6 people died in building the Golden Gate Bridge. There were men who lived in hooches and shanties at the end of the bridge, waiting for someone to die so that they could get a job. That's how bad it was. You learn to be content with far less. The average person is still living a very high standard in comparison to the rest of the world and what previous generations had. So you can learn to be content. If things were really bad enough, you can learn to be content with 2 Buck Chuck and Johnny Walker Red. You can do it. You can learn to be content, right? You can learn to be content. It's a matter of adjusting your standards and reevaluating what's really important and what's really valuable and what is really important in life, and adjusting your priorities. Now, all the time for the most part, I've been talking about what we consume, quality versus quantity, quality price ratio, and consumption. The same principle goes the other direction. I was talking about whiskey production and wine production and the turnaround on how much it costs and what some of the things that affect the cost of wines and whiskeys. And when you start cutting corners to make it more affordable, or you increase production, maintaining quality control as you increase production's quantity becomes more difficult, and you can lose sight of it and start producing less quality stuff. I've seen it happen, particularly in the wine industry. But I mentioned before at the beginning, when I hit 10,000 subscribers, I had this sense, I want to take this channel to the next step. I want to improve the quality of my videos. I want to improve the quality of what I'm doing. I want to put up better content. So I've been sort of watching a lot of videos on YouTube on editing, on film, and the quality in terms of production of the content there. I think I've got the information. I think I got the knowledge. I think I have the communication skills. I think I have the body language and all that. But now it's a time to improve the quality content of the videos and live streams. And that comes down to putting in more time. Better videos is more editing and more, rather than just sit in front of camera, let the film roll, and then a couple simple cuts and boom, that's it. But it also means, because it's going to require more time, not putting out as many videos. for 5-6 months, I've been putting out 2 videos a week, one midweek and one on weekends, in terms of regular full-length videos at 10-15 minutes in length. I'm currently working on a project. I did not put out a midweek video this week. I normally would have put one out on Wednesday, because I'm working on a video. My next video, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm putting out a video that I'm really hoping does well. I think it really is going to provide some great information for people who are watching, and I'm really hoping it's going to take it the next step in terms of the quality content of the video, but it's going to take time. So now I'm adjusting my production level to maybe go, and particularly this is for patrons who support the channel. I might cut back to the full-length videos, come back to once a week rather than twice a week. That's probably where I'm going to go. But even then, it's going to get real challenging in terms of the amount of time it's going to take to put up higher quality content videos. But I think it'll pay off. I think it'll pay off. All right. So we've been at this for almost an hour and a half, a little longer than usual. I want to say everyone who has tuned in, been watching live, got 57 right now. Don't know what the max was, but I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And there's been a whole lot of people who've tuned in who MSB 1791, DCUS55, Patrick Alexander, and Rick McQuarrie, and many others who tune in later. Thank you much for tuning in. Everybody who's watching us on the replay, thank you very much. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, any feedback, anything like that, Brandon Knight, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to put them down below. If there are other whiskeys, that you would recommend, high quality price ratio whiskeys, feel free to share. If there's another whiskey tuber who has great content on recommending quality price ratio whiskeys, you can put it in the comment section down below. If you put in a link, YouTube will kind of hold it. It won't automatically post, and then I have to go and approve it. But if I go in and see it's a legit, it's not some porn channel or some of that bullshit. It's another fellow whiskey tuber I think is doing a really good job, I will approve it, and then they'll be in there. So, all righty. So, hey, so today is Good Friday. For those of us who observe the day, it's supposed to be a day of somber commemoration. Sunday, Easter Sunday, or Resurrection Sunday, as I prefer to call it, is a day, more of the day of celebration. So, anyway, all right. Hope everyone has a great Easter. Have a great weekend. Again, thank you for tuning in. Next Friday, unless I'm getting dental work done, if I end up getting dental work done next Friday, then I'll post a notice and you'll know. But I'll try to work out something else in its place. Or I might just be high on drugs, on sedatives here, doing a whiskey review after having dental work done. We'll find out. Anyway, so let's go out with a little bit of rock and roll. And again, I hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next Friday at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Cheers.